Hey there, Richard Tubb here. Now, it's been a challenging year for managed service providers for MSPs, hasn't it? MSPs are having to look very, very closely at their cybersecurity, not just for themselves, but for their clients as well, to make sure they are doing everything that they can to keep everyone involved cyber safe. So when I heard that UK-based MSP partner Giacom were offering something they call M365 Secure, Microsoft 365 Secure, I was intrigued. So joining me today to explain more is Tony Taylor, Senior Account Manager at Giacom. Tony, let's jump straight in. What is M365 Secure?
So really simply put, Microsoft 365 Secure is a collection of 3 services. So we've got in there the Office 365 licensing. We've also got an email security solution by Vade Secure. And we've also got the an email backup, or I should rather say, a 365 backup product by Acronis in there as well.
Got it. So you're bundling these 3 products together. And I would argue, and this is for every MSP that's watching this, I would argue you should be offering these services anyway to clients, but you're making it super easy to bundle them together. Why would MSPs use Microsoft 365 Secure from Giacom above just grabbing those services individually?
That's it. So it's a great question. And if I'm going to be pedantic and a bit picky, we actually internally avoid calling it a bundle.
Right,
because
okay.
Essentially what we refer to it as is a solution. And there is a good reason behind that. Because one of the reasons an MSP would go for this product is because it reduces the objection around extra services, which, like you say, you should be selling to your customer. Yeah. Customers, of course, they're not in IT, maybe they're, I don't know, in the finance industry or something like that, or I don't know, another market vertical which isn't IT focused, and they might not be as aware of what we need to do in the security space. They might not be aware of what they need to do with email security or backup. So they tend to hold less value in these sort of solutions. So when you start selling individual services of backup, email security, or anything else really, you could go as far as to say, I don't know, email signatures and things like that, there is a bit more of a pushback. So what we say is, if you offer it as one solution, Microsoft 365 Secure, then you're going to have less of a pushback there because it isn't an individual product you can pick and choose like a pick and mix. So that's one of the reasons. There's a good few more as well. For example, you can increase your margins on this. Obviously, Microsoft has a fixed kind of RRP rate. It's well published. Customers can find it. And there's only so much margin customers can get across the board on Microsoft services, so that can be quite small. But when you create your own bespoke solution, which isn't published anywhere else, you bring products together and it's unique to you as an MSP, you can set that cost at whatever you'd like, really, obviously within reason. That's not too crazy, but it can increase it. I mean, we've had partners increase their margins on these services by upwards of 30%. Just by doing this. So yeah, there's definitely good reasons to go ahead with this.
That absolutely makes sense. And back when I ran a managed service provider, we never talked about bundled services. We said, here's good, better, best way of doing things. So I love what you're saying there. If you go to a client and say, do you want Microsoft 365 or Microsoft 365 Secure? There's going to be very few clients that are going to say, no, we'll go without the security. So I really love that way of approaching it. Thank you for clarifying. I want to dig straight in here, though. Can you show us what it looks like, how MSPs could provision a new user on Microsoft 365 Secure?
Absolutely, not a problem. So let me just share my screen for you.
Yeah.
So I'm just in the Giacom Cloud Marketplace, and for people that haven't seen this before, essentially this is just your online portal where you would go and order services, essentially. Kind of like, you could think of it as you probably used online portals before. So this is where you go to order any Giacom services. So if I go to, you could do it anywhere really, but the best way to do it, and the quickest way, go into manage services. Okay. And then we find the Microsoft 365 customer. Okay. So I've got 3 customers in here, which I've completely made up. And if we go into the first one, you can see I've already converted this into a secure license, and this is really handy, so you know which licenses are secure and which aren't. Okay, but we've got this one here, which is just listing the subscriptions we've got, which is just a standard 365 subscription. There's no secure here. It is just the 365 licenses as you would buy from Microsoft. So we want to upgrade this customer to a secure, and there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do an individual subscription, and just drop down the product actions and find upgrade to secure. So that would just upgrade my business basic, but I don't want to do that. It's usually best to just do the full customer because we're doing this for security purposes. Okay, you want to kind of cover everyone. There shouldn't be a reason you don't want to cover every user with these licenses.
Agreed.
So upgrade to secure, select that button. Brilliant stuff. So it's first just going to ask me if this customer has any special dispensation. So are they a school? Are they a charity? This one isn't, so I'm just going to click continue. But if they were, you would just select one of those. Okay, we'll click continue. Okay, and while that loads. So now what would happen if this was, just to clarify, if this was your first Vade order, there'd be another box here just above it, which would be the email address you'd use for your MSP email security by Vade partner account. Now that portal, if when you put that admin email in, that's the email you'd use to log into that portal, and that allows you just to see all your customers from one Vade portal for easy management, easy provisioning, that sort of thing. So we don't have that here because I've already set up Vade before. I've got a couple of customers on it. All we've got to do now is just put the display name, which would usually just put as the customer, and that's just how it will appear in that portal. Basically the Vade tenant, I suppose, would be called, that sort of thing. Okay, so if I just select continue, perfect. So now it's all in one journey. It's done. We don't need to do the 365 because we're upgrading. We've done the Vade on step 3, and now it's taken us straight to Acronis. Now Acronis, we need to create a user in Cloud Market for it to use for the login, essentially. Now I don't have any users on this customer, so when you drop that down, it will show blank, it won't show anything. So we just need to create a user very quickly. Okay, I've got my email address and I'm going to put that in there. Obviously, this is just a created tenancy for the purposes of this demo, but normally, obviously, you would have a standard email address, not a Microsoft created domain, essentially. So I'm just going to put okay, and then create a password. So I'll do a strong password there. Perfect. And then I've done that, create that. Brilliant. So I've created my user, it's automatically populated it. Now, of course, if you had already created users under this customer in Cloud Market, you could select one of those that's existing. Okay, backup suffix, that's important. That's going to form part of the username to log into Acronis, and it's just going to specify what tenant you're logging into. So for this one, I'm going to put M365 backup. Okay, because this is the purpose of this Acronis account for this customer. So essentially the login will end up being admin@prestonplc.microsoft.com/M365 backup.
Got it.
Okay, so we click continue. Brilliant, that's the Acronis bit done. So we've done the Vade, done the Acronis. It's asking me to review the order. We just have a look. This is what we previously had, just standard 365, and it's now specifying what it will change to. So 0 of standard 365. 1 business basic secure, 2 business premium secure, 1 business standard secure. Okay. It does give you a bit of information on the billing there. Important to read that when you go through. Click confirm. And it is as simple as that.
So it basically pulls everything together rather than going to individual portals, setting up different accounts. It's pulling everything together in one place here. It's
pulling everything together. There is still some setup to do with the Vade services, with the Acronis services. It overall takes about, I suppose, 10 minutes to set up both services. It's all, linking up with the Active Directory with Microsoft, so it brings in all the users. It just, like for instance, Acronis will automatically discover all the SharePoint sites, OneDrive, the Exchange mailboxes that you're going to be backing up, and then you just create a backup plan and apply it to those. That gets going. And similarly with Vade, you basically set up you give it API permissions into the tenancy using the 365 credentials. You then set up a journaling rule, and then you just adjust your settings very simply in Vade. It doesn't take long at all. And then basically, as soon as you've done that, done your first backup, Vade is filtering. It's step back from there. basically. So yeah, very quick, very smooth process for an MSP to do.
Fantastic. Thanks for showing us through that. I should say, for anybody watching this who's unfamiliar with Vade, unfamiliar with Acronis, how do you describe those two services? Because they are very well thought of in the MSP industry.
Happy to. I love those products. So Acronis, it's a really nice, simple one. Essentially, what do people want from a backup? They want it to be nice and simple. They want it to be reliable. They want their data to be held in a different place to where it is with Microsoft, to have that backup, for want of a better term. So with Acronis, it's really nice because it's a simple portal. You've got an MSP overview where you can jump into all your customers. Like I say, you enter the global admin details of the tenant. It will auto discover all of the services. You set up a really quick and simple backup plan. There's only a few details in there. You can set the the retention policy, where you're backing up to, obviously the name of the backup plan, and then you basically select apply. It's completely unlimited if you want to. Well, saying that, I've seen people put things like 99,000 months in there and things like that. So I like to call it unlimited because you can really, really push the boat out on that. And it doesn't cost you any more either to do it that way. So that's a really awesome point of it. And to recover, the recovery is brilliant because you can actually find it, when you go into the recovery settings, you can see the actual mailbox folder structure and go in that, find the specific email, search by to, from, all of the different variables you can think of with mail, select it. You can recover it as an attachment, send it as mail again, put it straight back to its original location. You can even see the content of the mail in there as well. It's really wholesome. And same with SharePoint OneDrive as well. You can see the SharePoint tree, you can see the OneDrive tree. So it's exactly how you'd want it to be, very intuitive. So really happy with that product. The Vade service, again, I found that extremely unique. It's the way it works. I mean, we're used to traditional MX filters with email filters, which have worked quite well for some time. There's some really strong ones out there, but the problem with it is you've got an external filter. So once it's done its filtering and sent the mail into 365, you kind of, your job's done. There's not really much more you can do. But Vade, what it does when the mail comes into 365, it actually gets a journaling copy of the mail. It scans it, decides what it is, and then it directly influences the tenancy. So it tells the tenancy, okay, we are registering this as, for example, a phishing email. So do what you are programmed to do. And that's something you set up in the settings. For example, do you want it to go into a different folder? Do you want it to go into junk? Do you want it to be deleted? Do you want to remove the malware and put a banner on there? So it will tell through API, the tenancy, through everybody's mailboxes, what it would like to do with that mail based on the settings you've put in. And also it gives you control. So say, maybe a 0-day threat comes in. You can see the mail within the logs that's gotten through. Something hasn't detected it. And then you can remediate that out of the inbox in a split second. As soon as you click that remediate button, it will pull that directly out of people's mailboxes there and then. And if I can go a little bit further, I know
please
speaking a little bit more with that. It also uses, because you can report that back to Vade, and what Vade do with all of these. So they've got about 600 million people across the planet using that service. We've got some very high profile enterprise companies in the UK using it for their internal staff. There is a lot of people, remediating mail if a 0-day threat comes in, which it doesn't recognize as a threat. So Vade's machine learning, what it does is it recognizes the input of this email, and it recognizes the input of people saying, this is a bad email. And it goes, right, okay, we're not seeing this as bad, and starts to learn that this is a bad email. As soon as it does that, it then goes further than remediating, manual pulling email out. It does something called auto remediating, where if you've got that enabled, Vade will send a mass call out to all tenancies with this enabled, and it will say, do what you are programmed to do with that type of mail, i.e. malware. And after the fact, it will then pull the mail out of the mailbox automatically. You can get full reports on it doing that if you want to keep an eye on what it's up to, but it's a really awesome feature, especially with 0-day threats, because we can't recognize everything. Unfortunately, these people who are doing this malicious activity are very intelligent. So it's a great way to kind of remain proactive on new threats.
Yeah, and two absolutely brilliant products. And as I said at the top of this video, in my opinion, we should not be selling, Microsoft 365 standard, if we want to call it that. This is the new normal, because these products are needed to keep people safe. And so what price can you actually put on the peace of mind of keeping your clients safe and your relationship with your clients safe? But in terms of how you're getting the word out about this, is there anything you're doing, MSPs, to help MSPs to market this to their clients?
Yeah, absolutely. If I might, could I share my screen and just show?
Yeah, go for it. Please do.
Perfect. So it'll be a bit easier that way. So how we're supporting MSPs getting the word out. We have something called the Giacom Academy, and it can just be found within our online services portal, which is just a tab here which says Academy, and it will open a new tab. Okay. So Giacom has a really strong internal marketing team, and our entire goal is to support MSPs in getting the word out on themselves. You know, we are the person who supports them with their day-to-day activities. Whatever they need, we want to be able to help with. So why not use our amazing resources internally and give our customers access to that? So we have a branding team who they can make use of. So we have this Giacom Academy where you can see all of our products and services, and there is one specifically on Microsoft 365 Secure. Okay, so in here, rather than downloading it, because it is quite a large size, I have it on our internal system, which I'll grab. In here, you'll see two folders. Okay, you'll have branded materials. Which is materials we can brand up. We can put as an MSP, we can put your logo, your company details, your color preferences in any of these.
Got it.
Okay. So just to give you an example, there's the Vade brochure. We'll do the full Microsoft 365 Secure brochure so you can see that. Here's a brochure. Like I say, we can put your logo in here.
Got it.
Company details, that sort of thing. We do microsites, we do email templates. So we've got the brochure here. There is a plethora of social media copy as well. There's a plethora of items in here we can help you with. And essentially all you do to request this, so they'll do the full, if I just go back here, they'll do everything that's included within the folder.
Yeah.
To request this, you just scroll down, select request your campaign, and it will automatically populate an email to Branding App with the details we require to do that. Probably waiting about 5 working days maximum to get that back, and then it's sent back all branded up for you. Fantastic.
So you're doing all the heavy lifting on behalf of the MSPs here, enabling them to just get on and do what they do best, which is help the customers with things. Now,
absolutely.
Is this available? This is available to all partners. Additional cost to this?
No additional cost whatsoever. All part of the service.
Fantastic. I should say at this point as well, if anybody's watching this and saying, I'm not a Giacom partner, they're going to be saying, how can I become a Giacom partner? So we've got a microsite at tub.co/Giacom. We'll include that on screen as well so people can actually see that. But you can see videos like this and many, many others. But Tony, if anybody wants to reach out to you directly, maybe to continue this conversation, how can they reach you?
Brilliant stuff. So I've got we could call the office number on 01482 943030. Also my email address, which is anthony.taylor@giacom.com, and that's Anthony spelled ANTHONY, Taylor spelled TAYLOR.
Fantastic. Well, Anthony, thank you. I keep calling you Tony. You're Tony to me. Anthony, as your mother might call you. Thank you for joining us here today. I really appreciate you sharing the time with us. Anything else that you should share just before we go? Anything that I've not asked you?
Oh, that's a good one. Nothing. I think we've been quite detailed on that, to be honest with you. We've gone through quite a lot there, but definitely look, reach out. Even if it's around, the concept of creating a unique solution. We are at Giacom, we are here to help the MSP. We know there isn't a one size that fits all. We want to hear about your business. We want to hear about your pain points. We want to hear about your successes. We can learn from that. We can help you expand on what you're trying to do as an MSP, and we want to. So yeah, please reach out, please get in touch, and we're always here to help.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time, Tony.